Dozens of Palestinians are facing evictions from their homes in eastern Jerusalem's Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood. An Israeli court has ruled that those houses belonged to Jewish families before 1948 and will hence now be vacated for Israeli settlers. The court ruling has sparked yet more unrest in the already volatile region, with the Palestinian residents of the city taking to the streets in protest, which has now turned into a heated confrontation with the Israeli police forces. So why does Israel want to kick out the Palestinian residents? And what happens to them after they are evicted? Evictions of Palestinians from East Jerusalem have long been a part of Israel's policy. After declaring independence from Britain in 1948, the country was divided into two parts, a Jewish state called Israel and an Arab state called Palestine. However, the city of Jerusalem was supposed to remain a separate body and administered by the United Nations under the Corpus Separatum law due to its shared religious importance in the world. But the plan was never implemented as the British didn't establish an international regime at the time of their departure, leaving a power vacuum in the city as the neighboring Arab states invaded Israel. At the end of the war, Israel took control of West Jerusalem, with Jordan controlling the east, though the Six-Day War of 1967 changed the dynamics of the politics in the city again as Israel seized East Jerusalem along with the whole of the West Bank. Soon, the Israeli citizens started moving into the region, including East Jerusalem, from where the Palestinian residents were forcefully pushed out through a number of policies such as land confiscation and demolition of neighborhoods, one of which happens to be Sheikh Jarrah, which is home to 3,000 Palestinian families. But last year, 12 Palestinian families from the Sheikh Jarrah neighborhood were evicted from their homes to make way for Israeli settlers, and now 6 more families are facing the same fate. Some Jewish Israelis have apparently proved that they were heirs to the family who lived in the area before the War of Independence in 1948, and the Jewish law allows them to reclaim their property. The Palestinian families facing evictions have the option of appealing with the Israeli Supreme Court, but the court has a contentious history of favoring the Israeli settlers over the rights of the Palestinian residents, who've instead been living there for 65 years. In order to amp up the protests, a few Palestinian and regional human rights groups even sent an SOS to the United Nations, appealing for their intervention. The hashtag Save Sheikh Jarrah even started trending on Twitter, while many Palestinians even took to the streets in protest. One Sheikh Jarrah resident, Mona Al-Kurd, even tried to confront an Israeli settler, and this is what he had to say.
Jacob, you know this is not your house.
Yes, but if I go, you don't go back. So what's the problem? What are you yelling at me? I didn't do this. I didn't do this.
But
It's easy to yell at me, but I didn't do this.
You are stealing my house.
And if I don't steal it, someone else is going to steal it.
No one is allowed to steal it, ya ammi.
In the last year alone, about 689 structures across the West Bank have been destroyed, including many in East Jerusalem, leaving a total of 869 Palestinians homeless. Many of them cannot afford to rent a place in West Jerusalem, and even though moving to West Bank is an option, doing so would result in losing their Jerusalem residency, and they will not be allowed back in the region. So where does the issue go from here? Forced displacements like this have drawn parallels with the ethnic cleansing of 1948, and even though Israel is making it seem like a legal problem, Palestinians are convinced that it's inherently political, something which everyone outside Israel believes too. But nothing has been done about it so far, and despite reaching out to international communities for help, the Palestinians are essentially on their own. In such a case, forced evictions will continue.
of rockets fired by Palestinian Hamas militants streaked out